it was for a higher juicy news. Mema Obibia Akwaba. I had the latest hot and one era mede bremo. And unti se unya subscribe to channel dia bomodin share or be subscribe. There be an share over click a year the subscribe button no. Na wabele notification no. We have a video fufu bia be upload no. When the first person was sa ebeka a year sa video. Afi we are na wa like video no give us a thumbs up na afi share ma wo fufu so na when you be here na wo hu ensem dodo na ra ekoso e wo Ghana me mu hanam. Afi yembura ye ensema abeto yepno so gumayinti eye sa report ya ababetu dwa gumayinti sansemi
na nema mienu.
Okay.
The kind energy committee. You say me energy committee. So
yes.
Me a member of the committee. And a prof bonitrin kosa. Propaganda wow. Me a member of the committee. Enti your committee no so no. Two sides.
Okay.
You were the power sector and you were the petroleum sector. Enti you see last 2 weeks it miss ya the power sector no regulatory bodies in na no mu yes energy commission wo mu PRC wo mu yes ya VRA bui yes ya gridco yes ya ECG yes ya hefa na ka ho Net2 yes ya Net2 mu nyina ye power agencies under the energy committee. Enti minority koye press conference on containers ebeto dwa se ye hunu kira kwan no.
Okay.
Enti na hu be hia se ye twen energy minister ba committee nanim na otimbe answer questions bi and obe make niema clear ema ye fi ho no bi adwen mu aye no fine se ba bia Ghana drone yenye kataso mumu aso bia biem na me ade na emwanwa omudwumadi omudie ni nyina mu ne se press conference a minority organize ye ni nyina no eye brofu mienu e no mo se omo nte ase se publication no se nkomo omo tro ne se container no has been found.
Okay.
And I'm say container no has been retrieved.
Okay.
And to be retrieved and then found no. And no press conference
no.
Yes, omo mfa baby fufuru bia ma se ya adwen a ye ba be kire se Kwabena be fa so a ECG ho chinye ne ma aba no Kwabena ye de be fa so sa ne ma mienu we pe enti minister no so be kire se yes obaye no no ka transition team ne ho.
Okay.
And enti during the period no tell say yes 3,000 containers ECG dia a carport a code morager de bia o man no ebo ho ka aegu ho enti obeye minister no say no and yes me committee so be kind of professor Akwa committee no
okay
omonkonko yuhwe na omonfa di umu ankasa mra professor Akwa committee no kwe no continuous nye 2,591 out of that 2,300 yehu unaccounted for me pache o sesi e wa hai se mi pie Akwa abonten
yes
na me de minso yes ha me baaye no obi akọ o producers no o camera guys nyina akọ aka me no mi ni
yes
me baaye nso ni nsi ho o so se wu hu nso no me pache mi ntimi ka se nso naira
obetima aka
me ka se nso naira because nso na yeden be me de si no eni ho enti omo se omo nte ase biem so se minister ne ka se container no na ayira because there's another report say container no yahu enti minister ne say okay say me committee ni report ne buy
yes
masan report issue no ama national security NFA attorney general's office
okay
enti omo ya reconciliation between committee report no any containers no ye bie yenhwe serial numbers yenhwe cargo ne gomu no say indeed reflecting on the document a friend say importer no submit edema ECG nana yes no at least as at enra containers no 21 there ya clear emu 20 sorry emu 41 there ya clear
containers
yes na emu 23 there yenhu ba bia ewo still
okay
ayehwe but within omu jumede na omu die no omu ache enkofo bi mu a no mu movie containers ni be from port no muni enkrata sem.
Okay. As some movie container.
No.
Okay.
Ya chewomo.
Okay.
Afei yewo company for so a melting company omo na we say ye mrante mo nante sa na de ni aluminium omo na ekoton mo no man nane no mo de aye omo niema ya sa kwachi containers ni bi o ho a cables mo na gum no ye se no
aye ECG for cables
egum ECG for containers
ya say nane for
ye nane no ye cables no
wow
no more no aluminium
asa de akoba
asa de
some
ko da asan yo some ko ye ni ndo mo de enti cables mu no ye se no mo so ya chi omo
okay
enti minister amma ye sa briefing na mo se omo nwie adwuma no
okay
omo gusu a omo ye so mo wie adwuma ni nyina or the full report no ebeba ama omanfo ahu adekodia report num na afi prosecution na eden started because so share ECG documents are almost submitted edema minister no in the last 8 years about 70% of procurement and go through competitive bidding.
Wow.
And so sourcing
70%
and go to in fact and go through the board cry the board's approval 70%. 70%.
Wow.
And nti ni nyina ye niema aba ese eden ese ye hwehwem ne de emra no etu ba bi ese da ento ma eti ase ese ECG adwumayefo no bi ho no mo a sesia no ye se omonkotena fiansa former MD no so wako NIB amo no so omototo na no ABC ono so ensem the Ghana for pen hu na ne se enema no ewo he
okay
de dikan se aba efiri ne bae hwan na hwe se enema ye wo no yensan koto de same enema ne bi emeka ho
ayen credit opo
wa bra ye hia
okay
ira jo ati ase wa bra ye hia Ghana nkono betimi ato cables adegu se betimi use no in the next 15 years 20 years
ti entongu ho ne
wa bra enema foforo ho no man ke behia na yatimi edi yedwuma
okay
entini nyina ye enema minister no bae na obe chirechire mu ene they as usual kasa ewo minority for kasa bebrebe chenchena amonti ase sa retrieved and found and there sa brofo no say no I'm like maybe say minister say minister enti what release any official document to any institution to any media house yen energy committee yen aware na any copy MPP for and as a minority etiminya de koye press conference and the minister was confused yes like no and you can come back bomb your home say I didn't na me so mom koye on press conference na minister na ko bisa and I'm saying no person me who says a minister I release a document from the ministry I nimu dia then you who say yen oversight responsibility e wo yen samu e de ye adwuma no enye respected biem
okay
and he was confused tie free ye committee meeting no ano ena ye kowura chamber
I see
ese ye kwa akohwe ni aye energy sector amendments bill no na anopa me sorry ye kese ensemu a ekoso o manimu no am say na den na ekoso e ese yi levy aba ebi se kura de petrol no be kosoro ma ese ye beto niema mu am say hwe abribia minority for we ena me ka se nka mo ntina fie me kan na Ghana for di matem komo ntina fie nka we nyina nka ma o hwe ye di dwumadie bia ebe bo man Ghana o parliamenta no o ma pieko
oh samom
oh yes no ma pieko he asa me be kan ni fire ba ni nsunsu anso ne mfa so nyina no dodo na so gina gold board so
okay
ibata wati ase ansan de ba be duru ha enne de abai gold board no mu pieko ejane ko
okay gold board no
yes o man tenase o mu pie jane ko ye no ade a chie minority press conference party headquarters press conference Regional offices here press conferences. Consensus office here press conferences. And now make a be same MPC in Kwan Anyibi.
MPC no mo yire m Kwan
Annan. And then press conference in Ibi. Obiya press conference. Meanwhile,
Gold Board Act no.
Meanwhile, yeah, sir Jumano. No more Pieko. Woman nim kwa fa so yes, sir Jumano. And now so the same thing. Adia chi nei. Omo sori ahomache no mo nam radio station to radio station. Ahomache o hwe se momo se mo boycott.
Yeah.
Se mo abreu, se den yo so da bi o mo abre.
Yeah.
Ebi no mo koye ya me kwaji table si ho ya mo se me kokonto koye. Wa bre akọ se no matemase e. Enti omo so mo abre no ma yeden. Omo pieko. Na wo a wo abre a wo akọ no. Watimi asori ahomache enam radio station to radio station. Tu mfuturo egu enkofo. Boakye dia ba dia na aba. Dia ba nyina ne se. Wo hu se yen gas ene ye liquid fuel. Ye de power ye thermal plants no. Eno no ye pass sa pricing no to the final consumer. Aban no ena efasa aka no. Na utia. 9.5 over 8 years ni ye buy no. Ye kwakura ye be re-election no. Ena aban no eye ne se ene enhye be ne se de de be ya yemfiri. Because sika na aka no ye de be ne ma betumi aboa ne awe ni elections no. Enti yemfiri. Ena me no ka say Ghana edika 3.1 to 3.7 billion dollars.
Energy sector.
Yes, a car Ghana de no. So you no free hono mo a Ghana ehia 1.2 billion dollars annually afibia.
Okay.
And sana yetimi ato ye fuel ne gas ne sa ne ma no e dia power ye thermal plants no.
Okay.
So ba Ghana has ya energy no. It is basically run on hydro, solar and thermal.
Okay.
In fact, solar no kra na fe na omo generate power no kakra yen kete.
Okay.
Enti hydro no ene thermal no pa
ena
etimi ekura hydro senso ne so tia
asamaba
asemaba
yeah.
Na ahode ni nyina ba begina efe ne se ne so thermal no so
yeah.
Eno na yat abana tenasia no hu se look se ka say ye pass sa cost no cost of purchasing fuel no to the final consumer see a to electricity bill mu 58%.
I see.
Na Ghana ni bia ubetua 58% in addition to the otua no ene
cause your two musun chairs are 14%.
yes, 58%. It's otua no ene and abane say okay say nyankopon adom yetimi stabilize dollar no.
Okay.
Ama enema eden ba from enunti ye beji fuel no at a cost of 17 17 point something and enne ye dia ba 16 point something 16 point something ye ba 11 point something enti ya save Ghana nia okoto fuel no 5 Ghana cedis on every liter. Sa 5 Ghana cedis na ya save Ghana ni no eno na buy ne say okay e be to ni 17 point something enke pa ke betim dia ba 15 ka Ghana fo ani nye komani nso ese yate so o se da bi menye ne sa 5 cedi no Ghana ni no fa 4 cedi na me aban no me so me fa 1 cedi enye se okogina pump no yakase yatofu wa mu ye ntofu wa mu se de tie no sa ne be na mom sa reduction no a eko 5 cedi no en na ban no a holding on to 1 cedi ese wo me de Ghana ni 4 cedi de o fanfa so na mom 1 cedi no me aban me fa sa 1 cedi no na sa 1 cedi na aban fa de na aban de be the aban de be ne say sa 1.2 billion dollars a ye hia no every year no sa 1 cedi no e be man 5.7 billion Ghana cedis.
Okay.
About 40-50% of
the
Debbie answer. But at least a be cushion abane kakra na finance minister asa ko pese ka for abesoso amana duru $1.2 billion no near the ato fango no e their power etema no.
Okay.
So that we are assured to say dumso petrol ni ho gas amani nyina ato ayeden etu atwa. Me pa what you say. Na existing levy na honom no ye de no so ahwe eka no a aba eda ho no because enam say 1.2 billion we ho annually ninti existing levy no ye de bi kwa ha na ye de bi akwa ha next year na eka no ensi ho baso nensi ho ye de baso ne eka no ekọ nanim ndc aban enya aban odwe ne nko a ndc aban odwe ne ena otchena enunti enka aban betimi aka say okay se sa dia se me ban no obi afiri ena okọ entimi so me ba be firi na me so me kọ ade be chi ne ma be ba ne se Ghana nyina yadum nkane a se ono de hono wawie na dwuma awie okọ ana mebua but aban ne say dabi yentumi manage oman no e say the MPP for manage no etimeje na se meje ochena so ye den e ka ho hwe ye wo losses bebrebe within the power streamer aban no hwe say obesisi ano enti say nya ni say
no madwene ho de because now one for making
yes
that loopholes na energy sector
but unim
then amoye
unim eya na nkofo adwen no enyina wo the distribution sector.
Okay.
But enyomo enkwane the power sector.
Okay.
Ye wo generators.
Okay.
Ufi generation na no about transmitters and some about distributors. About what you say. Distributors no omo direct power no to the final consumer.
Okay.
And Net2 air distribution company. ECG air distribution company.
Okay.
Gridco air transmitting company.
Okay.
Into no or in between the generation company and the distribution company. And until se bui for se VR for or more any IPPs in your generate power in area. And then they give it to Gridco. Now Gridco so transmitted at the Aquacoma ECG and then Net2. Now ECG and Net2 so also are transported at the Abayan Fiemu.
Okay.
Near the Castle Radio, so near the TV. Now Uja for Nene the B so
lines and don't I Net2 for the
yes, no winning. Yes, Modia. Yaji and never be home because even your technical losses and no crime and also very dangerous. Say power no or more the generators no air transported and as someone transmitted from their generation point
no.
to the distribution pointer. And no, you feel be technical losses. You share and your mahodin be a be a tifa baby a day. A conina yashe.
No, you bet ya.
Yes,
you lose what you bet
ya. Sauba distribution company no. Or no so or ton and your mahodeno. Ebi papa we why legal connection but I mean can say what why legal connection
yeah
me ba what you say obi bibia bi woni fie enso ntua
the required
enkania ka
okay
sankofo no omu nyina no e ka ni nyina aban etua o enti do no o use ni free no o use ni free a e affect aban enti ni nyina ya hwe na emom se wa mpekwa obefa so a Obema power na aye stable. Now see uko sili loopholes. And sana their pesca either be stabilize power no a. Ube sili loopholes ni be wie no. Na IPPs any VR for no mo infide nyina shut down.
I see.
And they say omontimi generate power no a. E be dey na distribution companies nenya.
Okay.
Na wako sili at the bailing session.
Okay.
Say nya possible.
No.
Enu nti sa asem no aba no a. Asen kofu bi na mabontin na ye betufu amu na ya tufu amu 1 Ghana cedi na ya tufu amu MPP for the my 17 point something
2022 there 17
what am fa say omode maye no what am kan say me person me mischievous ma men kan say
it's a fact
enu nti na Ghana for say e komu ye den ebu Ude sanya bibi akwa President Mahama wo de bie wo no wo de manenye den enka hwa na menua MB before behave say akola odi bibi na odi amano no asan ka che ne say mambie na akora ndi ase ne moto say gongon me ma because say abanet me mo anya 5 cedi mfaso
e no se man one
no say 5 cedi na wanya no enye say okọ mami nchade mu ye ne say bia okoto fu na abekọ no ye say yatomu. If that is the case, and Kenya beka say tia. Me fan say kebeje ni 17 no. Na ya san the levy aba na san ko 18.
Enye juma.
Kenya be beka say against it. But this is not the case. So could do on my 17 and I could 18.
Okay.
And also could do on my say a 14 I could 15 there be.
Okay.
5 cedis na a reduce yaba no. And I buy say okay. A reduce I be do 13 ke ko 12 na aka 13 wa. Into one my day. Me mate. Still, it's still cheaper. It's still cheaper than time on MPP a day. And so, what is their problem? What is it about this basic logic and Omontiase? They say, BBSia, ABC.
Now, it is your job, as you are doing now. No, say, decision I would take you on more almost sorry call, you know. Monsumbe Babe Church, you are the masters, no, and you're Montiase. Been away.
What we say? Sa enchemu we na ye chere no.
Yes.
And they say Ghana for because omo ya ade na mna kwa de say and they say me ma be frame me.
Omo ko demonstration.
Me ma be frame me. Na kwasi na esi e mo be mo basu yi and mo san tum ne mo esi ese ayi emo yi kura me ko to ye tin so esi ese betum omo kan sam na say no. Hwe so on MPP ni daily are very careful. I'm telling you. And this obefa kwan bi so aje enema bi aka enema bi ensem bi ato Ghana for trimu a ebema o man na say
offices of the Electricity Company of Ghana. You'd recall a few weeks or about a month or two ago, the current Minister for Energy and Green Transition, Samuel Jinapo, had given John Jinapo, I should say, gave indications that some containers were missing at the Tema port. Well, as of last night, a new updated information from the office of the Energy Minister and the Electricity Company of Ghana indicate that all these containers plus more were found or have been found at different locations. So let me just bring you some specific details. So former Managing Director of the Electricity Company of Ghana, Samuel Dubik Mahama, has been invited by National Security and had his caution statement taken as investigations continue into the discovery of some 2,637 unaccounted for containers consigned to ECG at the Tema port. Some ECG staff have also been asked to step aside to allow for an unfettered investigation into how the containers originally reported to be 1,300 remained unaccounted for and accumulated significant demurrage costs. The containers, according to a multi-agency investigative committee comprising the National Security, the Ministry of Transport, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, and Customs, were found across various port terminals, including the Meridian Port Services and the Ghana Ports and Harbours Terminal. The probe was triggered by inconsistencies in ECG's procurement and port clearance process, where items were consigned directly to the company without arrangement for timely clearance. The Attorney General's office is also expected to provide legal guidance on the next steps to be taken. Let me take you through the information that we got as regards where the containers were found. So the Meridian Port Services alone had about 860 of containers that were assigned to ECG, or ECG's containers had arrived in the country, and 860 of those containers were at the Meridian Port Services terminal. Again, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority terminal had 1,237 of the containers. Then you look at the ones that had already been evacuated by National Security. Those that had been taken out of these ports by the National Security in themselves were about 272. At the Amaris terminal, 194 of the containers that were seen there were those that belonged to ECG, and then 20 were seen at Atlas Manufacturing Terminal. And all of these, if you put them together, the number we are getting per the ECG report is 2,637, as against the earlier report of 1,300 containers that we were told had been misplaced or, using the word of the minister, missing. But from all indications, earlier interviews we had with Samuel Dubik Mahama indicated he was of a strong opinion that the containers were not missing because they were not small devices like phones that could simply just disappear into thin air. He was of the opinion that they probably have just been placed at different ports. So if you go to a particular area and you do not find it, it does not mean that those containers are missing. So based on the back of that, a committee was put together, and then they searched various port terminals and came out with the numbers that we have now: 860 at Meridian Port Services, 1,237 at the Gapoha Terminal, 272 already evacuated by national security, 194 at the Amaris Terminal, and 20 of them at Atlas Manufacturing Terminal. So it simply raises the concern or the issue: what was contained in the report that the energy minister received, for which reason he came to say the containers were missing? And he put together a committee to investigate. The committee came back to confirm the fact that the containers could not be found. But a second committee that was put together that comprised, like I indicated, the Ministry of Transport, Gapoha, Customs, and National Security, they also undertook further search, and on the back of that found over 2,600 of these containers at different port areas. So that is why the minority, for instance, is raising concern about why they believe the minister needs to come and answer a few more questions. So the spokesperson and head of communications for the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition, Richmond Roxon, has also been speaking on this particular issue and provided some answers as to how these containers were retrieved. He spoke earlier to Beatrice Edu.
You will recall that the previous administration informed the current administration that ECG had 3,000 containers that were uncleared at the port. But the assumption by this administration and the swearing in Minister for Energy and Green Transition, the minister had briefings. The briefing he had was contrary to information that had been given earlier. As a matter of concern, the minister caused an investigation into the matter. You will recall that the committee's report, the initial committee's report, was that he had identified over 1,100 containers, but 1,300 of these containers were not accounted for. They had gone there to do a physical inspection. They didn't find it. This triggered an interagency committee comprised of National Security, Ministry of Transport, the Ghana Ports Authority, GRA, and Ministry of Energy. Fortunately, through the work that has been done, 2,637 containers have been traced, and currently there's 2,583 containers in possession of the National Security, which are currently at the port.
That's almost half of what was initially retrieved or identified, as it were. How does the ministry how do you take this new revelation coming through?
You know, this goes a long way to confirm the poor procurement practices and data keeping of the previous administration under the ECG. Because as of now, if you give data that you have 3,000 containers, and eventually there's the contrary information that you have 2,005, and then you cannot even produce data to back exactly what you have, then it's difficult. There are facts among the containers that have been retrieved. There are some that some containers that have been retrieved, but there were no data supporting these containers. And there were some containers that have not been retrieved, but data shows that they should be available. And that is why this investigative committee's work is very important and crucial, and that they will continue because the the suspicion is that there will be more containers out there, and that once the investigations continue, be able to retrieve more.
Do we know how long they are supposed to continue with its work? Until when?
But as long as it will take, because it's been some time now. If the work of the committee can bring 2,600 at this point, there's absolutely nothing that should stop the committee. The objective is to recover every container that is out there, and number 2, to deal with the procurement issues and punish any individual or institution that is involved in this. It's not that the matter has been left to go, no. The matter has been referred to the Attorney General for advice. The investigative bodies are still looking at it. The former managing director of ECG statement has been invited by National Security. His caution statement has been taken. Some staff of ECG have been asked to step aside pending investigation. So until the last container is retrieved, until people are punished for these acts, these investigations will continue.
And you heard the voice of Richmond Roxon, who is the spokesperson and head of communications for the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition. Right, now let's try and get some clarity on how all of this plays out in the domain of Ghana's power sector. Nana Amoisi the 7th is the executive director of the Institute for Energy Security. Nana, good evening. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Thanks for having me, Martin, and good evening to your listeners.
Right. Do you have an understanding of the explanation that we have been given so far concerning how 1,000 and over containers were said to have been missed, and then those that have been retrieved are way past the number that we were told?
Well, I think that Richmond was trying to provide some clarity on the matter. The indication we took was that during the transition, it was reported that ECG has about 3,000 containers at the port. Then, when the minister took over, he equally got indication that they have at the port about 2,500 containers. And so the disparity between what was conveyed during the transition period and when he took office, it's what caused him to proceed with an investigation. And during the investigation, as we picked from the ministry, about 1,100 plus containers were identified out of the 2,500 that the minister was looking for. And about 3,300 could not be accounted for. And that's what came out into the public domain. And so today, if we are getting close to 2,600 of containers being accounted for, then it goes close to what ECG declared to the minister, but a little above that. Apart from that, during the search, some containers were found with an Indian company and other places. It means that between the 2,500 declared by ECG and the 3,000 that was declared during transition period, is what we are finding as extra. And so we believe that there could be more in the system that has not been accounted for. And so the search continue.
Right. From all indications, this is quite a major turning point when it has to do with ECG's procurement strategy. The minister has asked that ECG halt all forms of procurement, in line with these types of things that come in container shipments. Is that the way to go, you believe?
Well, when you're doing something that tends to be wrong, the common sense approach is to stop and check again if the direction is confirmed right or wrong. Then you take a new direction. And so halting the procurement process is good, because we get indication that there's some type of cables that have been bought so much that it could last for even more than 10 years. And some of these cables have lifespan. And so you only want to procure when you need them, and not so much that burdens the taxpayer and may go to turn out to be useless at a point. And so we must take a break and look at the whole procurement process, redefine it, retune it, and ensure that due diligence is done through the process so we have value for money.
And finally, we also have been told that probably the interference of political class could be blamed for some of these discrepancies. So, for instance, they are asking maybe an independent state institution must undertake the overhauling, the investigation, and the entire process. Is that a position you share, or because there is a political class that plays a critical role in the day-to-day running of, the critical power sector player like ECG, we really cannot do without the political players in this particular issue?
Well, if we choose to be disciplined, we can manage even the political interference. You interfere in the process to make it better, or you want to interfere to make it worse? That's what we need to direct our attention to. And we believe that that sort of interference has not bode well for ECG over the past decades. And earlier politicians ceased to meddle in the affair of ECG unnecessarily, the better for the power sector.
Nana Amwesi, the 7th, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's a pleasure talking to you, and he is the Executive Director for Energy Securities, the Institute for Energy Securities, Nana Amwesi, the 7th day. So what do you also make of this new development, which hinges on the fact that the earlier number of containers that we were told had been missing looks as though the committee put together to investigate this has found way more than we thought we had been told earlier. So some are already praising the fact that yes, then it means that some underhand dealings had gone on, and so it is good that we have found more. And like you just said, Nana Amwesi, there is a possibility that there could even be more if the search is further intensified. We'll see what the coming days look like regarding this particular issue, and maybe if you also feel strongly about this story.
Yo, it is what we need and someone about beto. Yapono so Mikao say so. We subscribe to channel idea, but more than say over subscribe. Now, while like video, don't give us a thumbs up. Nafi share my work for so that when you be here now, and someone also ever Ghana memoir. Also, bet me otchere wadwin afaye and some way you know who ever comment box in mo. Mobati interview in my next video.
Thanks for watching. Like and share the video. You can also drop your comment. Please don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to turn on the notification.